much, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, one more time. Welcome to the Governance Dialogue with the Private Sector session. A topic very close to my heart personally, and one of the reasons I joined IFAD a year ago from the private financial sector to support and increase the dialogue and engagement between the public and private sector to achieve more impact. It's my honor and pleasure to serve as your moderator for what is hopefully going to be an interactive exchange, because in today's session we will have an opportunity to hear from different representatives of the private sector who are partnering with IFAD or working and innovating in rural areas across the world. The words or phrase private sector engagement has been heard in many interventions, speeches and panels today and in other fora, but how to go about actual engagement, what it means or takes, and what the views are of the private sector itself is not always available or visible. So I'm very happy we managed to gather an impressive panel for you today. We have representatives from leading global companies in their field, but we're also going to hear from a young agri-entrepreneur how public investments can create hope and generate opportunities for young people to thrive in their home communities. At the end, you will have a chance to ask questions to all of our participants. But first of all, I would like to start by asking IFAD's Vice President, Gérardine Mukeshimana, who will provide opening remarks to frame today's discussion. Mrs. Vice President, there you are. The floor is all yours. I was looking.
Thank you, Pieternel. Excellencies, distinguished representative, colleagues and friends. For IFAD, engaging the private sector is not optional. It is essential to deliver on our mission, that is to make rural livelihoods productive, prosperous, and resilient. Global food demands are projected to rise significantly in the years ahead. And because the private sector already drives the majority of food system activities, effective partnerships are fundamental to meeting this challenge. Our own experience in IFAD is clear. Projects with strong private sector engagements have generated income gain beyond 60% and are up to 4 more times impactful than those without. That is why IFAD 14 and our new private sector operational strategy focus on de-risking investments, strengthening value chains, and enabling meaningful co-investments. Over time, IFAD has built deep expertise, working with more than 100,000 private partners globally and raising over $1 billion through sustainable bonds that bring pension funds, asset managers, and central banks into rural transformation. These resources allow us to scale approaches that work for smallholders and businesses. So what this look like on the ground? Since the chair was from Nigeria, so let me give an example from Nigeria, from Enugu State, when women rice farmers led by cooperatives leaders such as Sabrina reported that before the value chain development program, they sold their rice in local market at low and unstable prices. IFAD's value chain development program introduced them to structured off-takers, including those connected through the Commodity Alliance Forum established through the program, and buyers such as Angel Rice Mill. As a result, Evelyn and her fellow cooperative members have gained reliable buyers and began earning higher, more predictable and stable income from the harvests. While the sovereign loans remain our core business, IFAD is expanding our toolbox for private sector engagement. We are doing so by moving into no-sovereign operations for rural SMEs, and soon we are getting into partial credit guarantees for public development banks so that they and the private banks that they work with can lend more to rural SMEs. As we introduce these instruments, we will intentionally design complementarities between sovereign and non-sovereign operations, and we will use our investments in and with the private sector to accelerate innovation so that value chains can modernize, logistics can become more reliable, and rural economies can undergo structural transformation. Today's dialogue with partners, companies, and innovators in their fields will bring more of this experience to life, and will explore how they can be expanded with support of our member states. I am so much looking forward to hearing from our distinguished panelists, and I'm also eager to learn more about how we can work together even more closely in the future. Looking ahead, IFAD is ready to scale up this work. With the strong support from our member states under IFAD 14 replenishment, and with additional resources, including supplementary funds, we can increase co-financing, we can create more rural jobs, and we can transform food systems so that they can work for everyone. Because at the end of the day, this is what matters: more opportunities, more income for rural families, more resilient communities, and stronger and more stable societies. Thank you for your partnership, and I'm excited for the conversation ahead, Pieternel, and I hope you are too.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, for those inspiring remarks. Now it's time to hear from 4 representatives of private companies who are investing alongside IFAD in rural communities in different parts of the world. Our aim is to showcase the vital role that governments can play within this ecosystem as an investment and risk-sharing partner, helping align public resources with private investors to create enabling environments and win-win partnerships. Let me welcome to the stage, first of all, Ms. Sabrina Ounis from Algeria, founder and manager of Desert Fish, an intelligent aquaponics and aquaculture enterprise tackling climate and food challenges in desert regions. Very excited to hear your story. I would also like to welcome Mr. Ryo Satomi, Executive Officer for Sustainable Business Practices of Ushima Coffee Company in Japan, just arrived all the way from Japan, especially for this panel, so thank you very much. Mr. Patrick Ungaro, Managing Director from Bonifiche Ferraresi International, one of the largest agro-industrial groups in Italy, but working internationally. I would like to welcome also Mr. Ramesh Muchikal, CEO from Africa Improved Foods in Rwanda, a public-private partnership together with, amongst other, the Dutch company DSM, but also financed by several DFIs and supported by the Rwandan government. Last but not least, I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Juan Antonio Rivas, Senior Vice President and Global Head of Sustainable Business Development from Olam Food Ingredients, a leading global food ingredients company listed in Singapore, active in 50 countries in coffee, cocoa, nuts, dairy, and spices. Now, I hope my microphone, yes, I think my microphone is working. First of all, warm welcome again. We've already spoken briefly to the start of this panel discussion. And if you don't mind, I would like to start with the young lady, Sabrina, first. We often talk about young agri-entrepreneurs, of course, and how important they are for the future of food systems and, if you like, for anything. But could you start today's discussion by telling us more about your company, Desert Fish, and what the funding opportunities are? Thank you.
So to start, I would at first thank you for this invitation and for this interesting panelists. So Desert Fish, like I said earlier, it's a smart aquaponic farm based in the desert of Algeria, where we combine between two technologies, which are aquaculture and hydroponic, in order to optimize water, land, and time in the arid area, as well as we use EUT solution for to monitor the farm, to be able to have real-time data in order to minimize the risks and be able to manage any problems. So with the IFAD support, we had the ability to participate in different programs for monitoring, financial trainings, and as well had the possibility to partner with public mechanism for financial support that help us not only gain the confidence to believe in our ideas and our prototype, but as well have the possibility to gain a loan with no collateral and interest, which is mainly impossible for some young entrepreneurs in rural areas. So that's helped us to be more like a bankable project to other VCs and investors.
Thank you. Sorry, in the meantime, they're fixing me my hardware. Thank you very much for that. And that's quite unusual as an occupation, actually, as an activity, but and also that you have actually started it as at such a young age. But what would you say were the main risk you had to manage for your company?
So as any respectful young entrepreneur, we always face risks. There are sometimes either we adapt or we try to seek for better opportunities. The main risk that we faced was definitely financial. So we had to go throughout different programs, and the main one was the IFAD program, to be able to secure our first seed capital that help us at least have go from prototype to MVP, that help us at least get show that our ideas are profitable, because we already had technical and financial studies based on our background in the field, but having a short capital or finance aid make you always try to adapt based on what you have, but you always need to be a profitable company. So this is what's one of the mainest challenges, as well as accessing the market, because being able to sell your product to clients who can accept the price you offer, it was a bit challenging for us at the beginning, but with the governmental mechanism and the support of the organization in our country, thank God we didn't have to go throughout all the problems. So mainly those are our.
Thank you for that. No, and I think a lot of people here and in the room recognize your challenges. Moving from you to a different type of company, Mr. Rivas, and talking about risks. How do you look at that? How can they be managed? And also, can you elaborate a little bit about what roles you see for the public sector versus the private sector? That will be very interesting as well from your perspective.
Thank you. Can you hear me? So thank you also, IFAD, for the invitation and this opportunity. So I understand the risk from an entrepreneur side. I look at it more from a value chain side, and there are considerable risks in the agricultural value chain and in the food system. I think I would kind of separate them into two. One is kind of the shorter term risks that are more related to markets, where a company like us who is buying agricultural products very often directly from farmers, we have close to 3 million farmers in our network, we often have to extend credit to these farmers, but this is short-term credit. It is not really our role to be a longer-term financing organization. So there are some risks in that, but there are longer-term risks, I think, to the sustainability of the full value chain, and I'll focus a little bit more on that. There are economic risks. Smallholder supply chains, by definition, are smallholders. They have limited financial possibilities. They are fragile. Markets are volatile, and they are not always equipped to manage that volatility. Then there are obviously the social risks in supply chains. These are remote and difficult areas where you may have some human rights risks, including child labor in some cases, risks, and these have to be monitored, mitigated, and remediated. Climate risks, obviously very long-term and very important. That's a different nature of risk. So that we do see a lot of risks. In terms of roles, which was the other part of your question, we as a private company, as a supply chain manager, we are better equipped at analyzing, understanding, and mitigating and addressing the risks that are related to the market activity that we participate in. But that includes the communities as well, right? The farmers are not in isolation. But we're better equipped, if you want, at looking at the shorter term risks and at the risks that are related to the products that we are supplying to our customers and sourcing. And I believe IFAD and similar international organizations should really focus on the longer term risks. Infrastructure is a key challenge. I think that needs to be addressed. Longer term financing needs to be addressed. And obviously we all together have to work on the structural and systemic risks related to climate, related to ecosystems, soil degradation, regenerative agriculture, etc. But hopefully that answers a bit.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting insight, especially your the deviation between short-term and long-term risk. That's a very good starting point. But maybe the risks are simply also too high in a lot of cases. How can they be managed? And maybe I can invite the other panelists also to give a quick reaction. Perhaps Mr. Satomi, you would like to?
Yes. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
I don't believe the risk is too high
Okay.
at all. Yeah, it's if we can manage them. Right? What is essential is shared vision, clear goal setting, and also teams' roles and responsibility.
Yeah.
If we don't define clearly, its risk is high, right? So when these elements are in place, risks become manageable, and we can make results. Yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Muchika, would you like to give your reaction
Yes.
as well?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you again for the invite. I think two risks I'd like to focus upon on account of my own experiences in the system that I operate in Africa Improved Foods. One is what I call collaboration or partnership risk, and I'll explain that very briefly. We had 70% of our capacity utilized by the World Food Program, and over the last 2 years when the sector collapsed, we were suddenly left with 70% of our capacity available for somebody else to utilize. The way we mitigated that is then to reach out to a number of family foundations who are interested to do good in the world, to substitute what the World Food Program was doing, with the view that in about 3-4 years' time, hopefully this trend will change and World Food Program will come back. But we have taken care of that risk, and that's one big challenge that a lot of entrepreneurs that I work with face, because they look for an easy market, they find the market, and then suddenly somebody disappears. So the counterparty is not as strong as they thought when they started. That is one. The other is, I think, critical to any business, is that of quality. If there is a quality of output that is committed to the market, basis which you sell your product, then the capacity to manage and maintain that forever is critical to your success. The day it drops, there is a substitute in the market who can offer the same product at the better quality than you can. So maintaining that quality and maintaining the quality systems in your production capacity is critical for your success, is my view.
Thank you for that, and it makes sense, especially when you talk about food and nutritious food.
Exactly.
I mean, quality is an important part. Mr. Ungaro, would you like to comment as well on the risks? Is it working?
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yes.
Thank you very much for having me over, inviting me over. Well, the good news is that by partnering with IFAD, that IFAD as a boots on the ground is just not a technical advisor, but has shown to be a very excellent, reliable partner, like in Senegal. And again, as I stated, that's the good news. We're definitely able to mitigate and reduce risks. Because when you set up model farms, there's huge investments, and it's not just the actors, many communities involved, the local government is involved. To have IFAD to partner with us, definitely that's a number one risk mitigation factor. The problem is that besides the project, setting up model farms and ensuring food security and reducing food being imported, what we noticed and our biggest challenge is financing. So we work beautifully with IFAD, but when we knock the door or when we are called by the likes of World Bank or IFC and whatever, or African Development Bank, it all boils down to the key. It's very difficult to access capital. So basically, they behave and act like a commercial bank. So it's all credit status, AAA, balance sheet, and such. And it seems that people tend to forget in these institutions that it's a food security project. So I don't understand why IFAD is partnering with us, risk sharing, and we really appreciate that, and we are very grateful. But when we move, let's say in Washington, and we address the World Bank on such projects, they say they have billions, trillions of money on food security. Why is they're unable to deliver that kind of money to real food security project on such a scale? So that's a question for you. Thank you.
I didn't expect a question back, but no, having worked for a development financial institution, I sort of see where they are coming from, but I definitely see where you're coming from. Somebody needs to pick up the bill or at least take the risks, and I think it's good that we are looking into risk sharing for that matter. Rather than having one party taking all the risk and the other not. I think that's in the end the solution to a lot of it. But we're talking a lot about risks now, but clearly there's also opportunities, otherwise you would not be here. But how can we go about, for instance, reducing transaction costs of going further into supply chain? And I'm thinking in particularly about the Ueshima Coffee Company, Mr. Santoni. I would like to address that to you, and feel free to talk about the work you're already doing, of course, with IFAD in Tanzania.
Okay.
Or elsewhere, for that matter.
Thank you. We are leading the first project under Japanese government newly created initiative called ELPS, ELPS. Enhancing linkage with private sector. So our team is 4 of us. They strongly support Tanzania to increase coffee production. So we are 4 of us, and first is Japanese government. So we are really clear role and responsibility to reduce, to make it happen. And then the first is the Ministry of Agriculture, Japanese government, provide the strategic framework and funding, offering strong high-level support from the Japanese government. That's the first. The second is IFAD, of course, acts an essential bridge. That's really important. Leveraging its trust to ensure seamless coordination with the Tanzania government and local community. This is actually really surprised that IFAD is really strong connection with local communities. And third, we have Marubeni Corporation. That's a big trading company. They contributed world-class logistic and extensive and regional networks across Africa to stabilize supply chain. And then fourth one, last one is we UCC brings over 40 years technical expertise in coffee farm management, because we run 2 own and coffee farms, one in Jamaica, one in Hawaii. So we have a long experience to support in production countries. So we know the quality of coffee very well. So that makes very successful model, I think. So we spent almost 1 year because the project period is 3 years. So we just started, but it goes very well. Through 5 field visits, we already actually, yeah,
there's the pictures.
So,
yes.
Actually right now, our team in Tanzania and today. And then, so this is the 5th visit there. We have already provided technical training in, for example, in organic composting, or the make good seeding, and drying table, or pruning, and then a lot of training session there. Receiving excellent feedback from local farmers. So with the robust partnership, we are fully confident that we will achieve our goal of doubling coffee production in Tanzania from 1,500 tons in our supporting area to 3,000 tons.
Okay.
So, and then if we reach that number, we will extend the area. So that's our hope. So it's really, especially IFAD, your trust with the local communities makes the, how can I say, reduce transaction costs. That's, we are really happy to that.
I'm very glad to hear, and especially, of course, this is a very nice example of what you referred to already, everybody taking their role. Our goal is to make sure that smallholder farms can have a proper existence, and then if that can be combined with creating a proper supply chain so that farmers can supply to a high premium market in the end, right? That's beautiful, and you have more supply, so win-win situations, that's what we like. But maybe we can also hear from Mr. Mukeshimana. You're currently working with IFAD through a France-funded intervention to help increase the maize and soybeans that you need for your production. Could you elaborate a little bit on that as well?
Oh, yes. I think it's a very clever idea to work in that specific region that IFAD chose to involve us in. It's a region called Kayonza, which is in the eastern corner of Rwanda. The challenge there, of course, is that the current yields of soya are 0.6 tons per hectare. Now, anybody who is anywhere close to soya farming knows that that's a pathetic number. 4,000 farmers, about 40,000 families are covered under the scheme. The project works well because IFAD has done the funding. The Agricultural Board of Rwanda is directly involved in agronomical practices. Our job is to ensure that the right kind of seed is provided, and that we are working with breeders, and we provide the market. And because we buy only grade A from maize or soya crops, we therefore ensure that the quality is upgraded before the crop is bought. So the farmer is taught good quality agronomical practices to upgrade the quality so that they can create more value. Right. And our commitment to IFAD is that we will pay between $50 to $70 more than the market price to ensure there is suitable motivation for the farmers to grow good quality crop. So apart from the yield increase, and our expectation is that yield will double, 1 to 1.2 tons per hectare within an 18-month period, starting from February 2025 to July 2026 is the expectation. So yield will double, and there'll be a premium for quality, and we'll teach them better quality practices. That's one part on the soya side. On the maize side, I think it's important to give you a short brief on the background. When we started buying maize in 2016 in Rwanda, 98% of the maize was aflatoxin ridden. This is a common problem across Africa. This is not news. What we have done is through a patented process called the cob buying model. We buy the maize grain attached to the cob from the farmer, take it to, let's call it, perfect warehousing and drying conditions in a laboratory type warehouse, detach the cob there fully dried, and of course we get rid of the cob, and therefore we are paying extra to the farmer for selling the cob weight to us. But the fact of the matter is the grain that we then get is aflatoxin free. 98% of rejects have now become 1% of rejects. And University of Chicago has estimated that that process has added $800 million to the economy of Rwanda. Okay, that is a kind of value generation. That apart, because bulk of the grain then becomes grade A. Today, about 15 to 20% of Rwandan maize is grade A. And we are able to buy all our requirements from Rwanda alone without having to go to Tanzania or Zambia. So that is the value addition for the farmer. So that process is also underway in Kayonza. The view being that in the end, yields have to increase, quality have to improve, because finally the farmer has got the same small plot of land which is less than 1 hectare. So our work, along with IFAD, is to provide them the support to be able to do that. And I must tell you that your team is extremely motivated and high quality professionals on the ground. So it's really easy working with them.
Okay, well, thank you for that. But it also shows how we can work together, because that kind of technical insight and support is also very important. It's not only about producing maize, but also getting the right quality and without aflatoxin or other issues into the factory to produce healthy food. Very interesting. In that sense, Mr. Rivas, a question to you. What do you see as the main value of a partner like IFAD or the public sector or government for that matter?
It goes back a little bit to the roles, I think, to the question that you asked before. So I see again, as I said, some of the risks or the challenges that are longer term, I think, require alliances and partnerships that have that long-term perspective. Where I see IFAD adding value, and I mentioned it before, is longer-term financing that private companies are in a more difficult position to give, especially because of the risk to financing smallholder farmers. Someone yesterday in another panel said that the credit rating of a smallholder is a big barrier. So we need to get through that barrier. You mentioned before risk sharing. I think it's very important that where there are risks in the supply chain, we find a way to share risks, and these mechanisms where risk is shared by different parties, I think, are very valuable. Public goods by nature are public, and we need to find, again, the right partnerships to deliver public goods, and I think IFAD and the governments that are members of IFAD obviously need to focus on public goods. Convening different stakeholders to the table. Some of the actors and sometimes private companies have a narrower view and less of an ability to convene different stakeholders and align interests. And obviously a very key stakeholder in all of this is the governments, and IFAD is in a better position to convene governments. But I think our role also is to partner with the private sector. And it was mentioned before by your Vice President, the evidence that is showing that the programs that you do with the private sector have a return on investment, if you want to call it that, 4 times higher than other programs. And I think that's evidence that the private sector plays a role. Yes. We have the feet on the ground, companies like mine. We have thousands of agronomists, thousands of people engaging with farmers, creating programs to improve productivity, etc., and making use of that network and that access to the smallholder farmers in a market environment. In the end, in the long term, you need the market to be behind something for it to be sustainable. You need to make sure that in the end, even after a program ends, because some of these programs obviously have an end date, that actually the impact continues, and that is through market mechanisms, people producing, markets being available, people like Ramesh, who was a former colleague of mine, being there to play that role, to have the market, bring the customers, like my neighbor.
Thank you for that. I would like to talk a little bit more about innovation. You already mentioned innovation as in completely new, but also improvements. But I'd like to hear indeed also from the others in practical terms what kind of innovations your companies are introducing, and in particular, back to Sabrina, about your innovations that you've used for desert fish.
So to begin with, you should know that for desert fish, innovation wasn't a luxurious thing. It was a must that we had to adapt to our process and production mechanism to minimize the risks, minimize the costs, and as well optimize the productivities. It started with the system itself, where we managed to create this first pilot farm in the desert of Algeria, where we combined the aquaponic system with the hydroponic system, where we used the water, which was a really good biofertile for the crops. But as well, we added the monitoring system, which is the EOT solution that help us, like it's a sensor that you put in your tanks and your farm to be able to follow in real time, have a real time data about different parameters, pH, salinity, and temperature, to minimize the mortalities of our fish, especially that in arid climate the weather isn't that good to manage. But we had to do it in those areas to have a real access to water, good access to water, and as well electricity infrastructure. So like I said previously, we had to go throughout innovative solution to be able to manage and have a model that works on a long-term model to be able to propose it and then be able to scale to in the future. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Impressive again. Can I also ask you, Mr. Rivas, to share a little bit more about what you're doing across the world in terms of innovation? I know you do a lot, and it's a big company, but...
Yeah, I'll bring some examples. I think the first one, again, this is about working with smallholders, is innovation in the way that we deliver services in programs. And we have been doing this for a very long time because we have been dealing with smallholder farmers for a very long time. And we have very novel ways, and I'll just mention one example. We have developed a segmentation model that has earned a lot of recognition because different groups of smallholder farmers have different needs, and it's very important to understand the exact needs of different groups of farmers and not tailor support, and to be able to tailor support to the different segments. So that's an example. On the digital side, I think agriculture needs to accelerate the digital transformation, but on the digital side, we have innovated in digital systems that, and I'll mention two examples. One is what we call the farmer information system. We have the ability to gather primary data on the ground from hundreds of thousands of farmers, and being able to gather that in an efficient way, aggregate it, and derive insights is key. I think we all understand that we need the data to be able to act and be more effective. But there's another one that is very close to my heart. We developed a system called OFI Direct, which is an app, basically, that allows us to go directly to the farmers and provide them information, market information, prices, so access to the market, and in some way makes the supply chain shorter, disintermediates when intermediation is not required, but creates a direct link to the farmer. So that's an important one. And the last example that I would mention, which again is close to my heart because I was at the beginning of it, we have been looking at ways of upcycling waste, basically, from agricultural supply chains. One example, which is already a commercial example, is producing cascara powder, so the coffee cherry, instead of using it as fertilizer, compost, etc., we're making products out of it, which is a very healthy product. It reduces emissions because the pulp can create methane. You don't want it to create methane. And it improves the income of the farmers because they are not treating it as waste, but they're able to commercialize the pulp to produce these products. And we're trying to do the same with byproducts of cocoa, byproducts of cashew, and these are innovations that we spend quite a bit of time on, but I think they're very promising.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ungaro, I have actually two questions for you. One is what your thoughts on insights on innovation, but also if you could share a bit what you expect from your partnership with IFAD.
Okay, regarding innovation, basically, most interesting is basically threefold. One, it revolves again around water. It's something that everyone needs to address, and we try to produce also something that's also affordable for small farmers, small holders of plots of land, irrigation systems which are climate friendly. So mostly where we set up model farms, there are plentiful of water from rivers, but it's mostly heavily polluted. So we introduce smart system for basically cleaning the water, or making sure that there's enough water through various techniques it's not wasted, and whatever is eventually is recycled. Number one. Definitely, it's another issue we are tackling, especially in sub-Saharan countries, is reducing post-harvest loss.
Yeah.
And that's is becoming extremely critical. And we do this through various approaches, one of which is basically making agriculture more predictable. So that's simply introducing very simple agronomic techniques, or best of breed procedures, or even simply, where it's possible, it's affordable, digital farming, some digital precision farming. And this definitely reduces loss, because, for example, when it comes for tomatoes in Senegal and Ghana, the wastage can definitely go beyond 50–60% overall harvest gets wasted. And of course, this also relates to storage.
Sure.
Another point where we're also working on is also agriculture produces waste. So we believe in seamless, basically around the clock, the fact that certain agriculture waste may be recouped and may be basically utilized in producing, in certain contexts, animal feed. Mm-hmm. So that's where eventually we make buffers out of that. So that's becoming something of a business, definitely. Regarding your second question, IFAD, again, as I mentioned, I'm really proud and happy to partner with IFAD, because currently IFAD is the only international organization with which we are actually partnering. Number one, because in the countries where we invest in, IFAD is already there. And they show it's real boots on the ground. And it is, as shown by, they really have tailor-made projects. So we really believe that finally we found a companion with whom we can really deliver goodness and value for the local communities. And so basically, even my company is basically making extra consideration of investing in countries where there is not an IFAD presence, because I see that as a measure, as a guarantee of success. And again, as I stated before that, besides the knowledge and boots on the ground, definitely I would be very grateful if IFAD would be a helping hand, in attracting further investment, because I mean, myself and on the gentleman and the lady on this floor, we could definitely do much more for the goodness of everyone.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You mentioned the word, I think you did at least, but I'd like to go to a topic called shared values. We've talked so far. We're very technically. The discussion was quite technical on risks and innovation, but also about values. Because sometimes you hear that private companies are only interested in profits and less in local communities, and that they don't receive their fair share. Mr. Muchika, can I ask you for a reaction initially?
Yeah, I must now go back to my initial days in agriculture in Africa, way back in the early 90s, when we were setting up Olam, the company that Juan Antonio and I worked together for. Long back, long before Dr. Michael Porter thought of this term, Olam was already implementing that on the farms. And I believe that Olam was a trendsetter, wherein we were managing the P&L of every farmer that we were buying from. Those were not days that we were not buying from 50,000 farmers. We were buying from 200 farmers. But at least we were managing the P&L of the farmers, because we knew that if the farmer did not succeed and thrive, the likelihood that we would get crop going forward was very low. Therefore, it was important for the farmer to succeed and thrive and remain commercially viable, for them to remain interested in a partnership with us. I do believe that that has formed the foundation of such a large company that Juan Antonio now manages, because those relationships have remained intact over 20, 30, 40 years, and second and third generation farmers are still remaining committed to Olam because of that reason. I see that in the current company that I work for, wherein because we have created upgradation of the farmer's value through quality and yield, the commitment that the farmer has to us is significant and strong. What it does, therefore, is to ensure that while we succeed and thrive as a company, because we have continuous throughput of the product, the farmer himself continues to thrive and therefore remain committed to agriculture. You know, one of the biggest challenges we have today, one is the aging farmer and the lack of interest from the youth. So unless it's a profitable, interesting business, it's not likely that the next generation will join farming. So I think one big contribution of mutual value creation and shared value that you're talking about is that the next generation becomes interested. It's an interesting P&L commercial activity, and we need to work towards that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, Mr. Rivas, you were mentioned. Would you like to comment as well?
I cannot agree more. The word profit is not a bad word. I think it's an incentive system. It's one of the incentive systems that is out there. I think the problem is if the tension is short-term profits that will disappear in the longer term. If you are focused on the longer term, then it's very clear, and I'll use the term that you used before, it has to be a win-win for the different stakeholders and the different actors in the chain. And we have been very clear about that, and we are consistently clear about that, that unless our farmers do well, we will not have a business in the future. So what's the point? That being said, any company that today is not putting sustainability as a key factor in the way they see long-term value is, in my opinion, making a mistake. And in our case, we have a sustainability approach and a strategy where every one of the targets that we have set for ourselves, so we have targets to 2030 of our strategy, which is called Choices for Change, every single one of the targets is related to the impact that we can bring to farmers and communities. It is not a profit target. So we want to improve the livelihood of 1 million smallholder farmers by the year 2030. We want 250,000 of those to be women. We want to support 85,000 youth in our supply chains. We want to mitigate the human rights risks or the labor risks that are in the supply chain. All of that is to improve probably our biggest stakeholder, our biggest partner, which is the farmers that we are sourcing our products from. Obviously, we have other people in the ecosystem. We have our customers. They are very key as well. And then we have actors such as IFAD who play a role. The banking institutions play a role, etc. But unless we all focus on the farmers, there are no food systems. So again, profit is not the problem. The problem would be a short-term view that doesn't make sense.
Thank you for that. Mr. Satomi, would you like to add something to that as well? Would you like to react?
Yeah, I agree. There is sometimes a misconception or misunderstanding that private company care only about short-term profit. However, at UCC, we believe that our business can survive unless the local community will thrive, right? In Japan, we have a traditional business philosophy called Sanpo Yoshi in Japanese. That's a three-way good. So that means good for the buyer, good for the seller, and good for society. So our partnership with you, IFAD, is a perfect modern example of this spirit. So in Tanzania, our technical transfer is not just an act of charity, no. When farmers produce higher quality beans, they earn a quality premium that increases their income. We secure stable supply chain of premium coffee. So this is not a choice between profit or social good.
Yeah.
So it is about creating shared value. We take both, right? Yeah, that's what we're thinking.
Very interesting. Mr. Ungaro, would you like to comment as well on this topic?
Oh, to the question if doing food security projects, model farms in Africa, it's profitable or it's economically viable, my answer is it is indeed. Because my company in Italy has been doing this exactly for 40 years with small farmers. Italy in the 50s was not the Italy of the 2000s such. So we're basically exporting the very same model. Basically, it grounds on very few principles to which we do not derogate. We never acquire land. There's no land grabbing. It's land concessions. And we always set up joint ventures. So it is a 50-50 partnership with the local government. So it is challenging, it takes an awful lot of time, but we ensure that the legal framework, the agreement, what we do and what they do their side, is set in stone. And then all we have to do is simply execute. So simply bring the best of our expertise, what we've been doing in Italy for a long time. So to answer your question, which normally is the same question normally bankers ask me on a very frequent basis, yes, indeed it is possible.
Thank you. Very powerful. Sabrina, can I ask you, as the last one, what needs to happen so that we can see more successful young entrepreneurs like yourself in the future?
So to answer this question, I truly believe that we need to try to at least identify those successful models that works and try to duplicate them in different rural areas and as well implementing communities, governments, and working all together in the aim to have a successful business. So just to answer your question, I truly believe that with the aid of IFAD and this organization, I think that we truly should have duplicate our models to be able to have at least beneficial values in this field. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Then last question, can I ask each of you to share with the audience something that you felt you couldn't share because of the questions, or that you would like to give us a key takeaway, or mention how optimistic you are about the chances of similar cases like Sabrina? Maybe, would you like to start, Mr. Ungaro?
Well, I am an optimist by nature. And again, definitely these projects, you can go on your own. That's a given. And I met IFAD, and it was unplanned. It was in Senegal in very difficult conditions. And they provided insight, cloud, and a very helping hand. So I believe that having the appropriate, let's say, not environmental, but just as I stressed already on several occasions, financial means conditions, we could definitely make much more in a more successful manner for everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You want to say something else?
Yeah, sorry for interrupting, but I would really love to add some points. Yeah. So to be able to be more optimistic for younger entrepreneurs, I would love to say that we truly need to work all together and create those type of model in different countries. As well, we truly need to believe in younger entrepreneurs, work with them as partner, because they can be engine of the economy, global economy, not only people who are looking to realize their ideas, because it's not mainly younger entrepreneurs have ideas, and their ideas sometimes they are good for the economy, but they just need some financial support, technical support, and monitoring from people who already have experience, such as people sitting here with us in this panel.
Clear.
So,
thank you. Please go ahead.
Right. So I look at it like this. There is $100 billion import of food being done into Africa. And that number has been increasing since 2013, since I've been tracking it. There's a very large entrepreneurial energy available in Africa. Great ideas like hers come up. Some of them get executed. The challenge is, you talk to any financier, they will tell you that there are not enough bankable ideas in Africa. The trick is, somebody has to sit with these entrepreneurs and convert those ideas into bankable ideas of scale, of sophistication, of the capacity to generate a return. I think the gap is there. So the energy exists, the people exist, the capacity to convert exists. The challenge is somebody has to sit and make that gap covered. Then we have a plan that can convert and unleash entrepreneurs like her.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Satomi?
Yeah, I'm really impressed her innovative and idea and passion and energy. Yeah, it's really impressive. When we combine private sector innovation with public support from organizations like IFAD, I'm confident or optimistic we can create opportunity for millions of young leaders like Sabrina. So it's really impressed. for me.
Great. We started from so many risks, and if you look at the list, and now we're all optimistic. So I like the way the conversation is going. Mr. Rivas, last one.
Your question was there anything that we thought we shouldn't say? So I was going that direction, but I will add to the optimism. I think this invitation to us would not have happened 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And I think the world has to be very optimistic that there is such a consensus today that we all need to work together, that there are different roles for different types of actors, but we all need to work together because we all have a role to play. So I'm very happy that we were invited, and thank you again. It makes me very optimistic about the future. There's a lot of challenges. I do see the challenges, but I think there's an environment today that we can tackle those challenges for the long term.
Excellent, thanks. So now let's turn to the audience if they have caught up on the optimism for questions and answers. I urge you to only ask one question on one issue at a time and keep your intervention as short as possible, please. We'd like to hear questions rather than statements, if that is possible. Please raise your country or agency nameplate if you want to speak. And I hear that Senegal is the first one. And Senegal, I said yes, but I don't hear.
Okay, I can start.
Is the microphone working?
Okay, no, I'm here. I can start because I was expecting the mic. Okay.
Yes, please
okay.
Go ahead.
Ok. Donc, merci beaucoup. Donc, je voudrais d'abord saluer M. Ungaro, avec qui nous travaillons également au Sénégal dans un projet de bonifique Ferrarazzi. Et dire qu'en réalité, j'aime pas le terme risque. Parce que moi, je pense qu'il y a assez de ressources dans le monde pour le développer. Donc, l'optimisme dont vous avez parlé n'est pas un optimisme vraiment béant. C'est un optimisme très réaliste. Et je pense que si nous travaillons ensemble, nous pouvons régler les problèmes du monde. Le risque, généralement, ce qu'on appelle risque, pour moi, c'est plus la peur. Et un investisseur qui a peur n'est pas un investisseur. Vous ne pouvez pas investir et espérer réussir à tous les coups. Dans la vie, il faut perdre. Ça fait partie de l'apprentissage. Donc, il faut que les investisseurs investissent et que les investisseurs perdent, qu'ils se relèvent. Et comme on dit souvent en français, on tombe de cheval, on se relève, on se remet à cheval pour avancer. Le deuxième point, c'est effectivement, je pense qu'il faut à un moment qu'on commence à penser global. Le monde est devenu un et indivisible et on ne peut plus se contenter de labels ou de stéréotypes. L'Afrique c'est comme ça, l'Asie c'est comme ça, l'Europe c'est comme ça, les populations rurales sont comme ça. Nous sommes tous liés. Et le problème que vous voyez dans un pays X, si vous ne le réglez pas, si le problème grandit, le problème vous affectera d'une manière ou d'une autre. On dit qu'on ne peut pas élever un serpent chez soi et espérer qu'il ne mordra que les autres. Donc voilà ce que je voulais dire, et dire en réalité qu'aux investisseurs que le monde est à vous. Vous devez avoir le courage d'avancer, vous devez avoir le courage d'investir, et je suis sûr que si sans investissement, les 80 ou les 90 réussiront. Merci.
Thank you for that. The next intervention would be from the United States.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here representing President Trump and the American people. As a businesswoman, I know personally the challenges and opportunities in creating jobs and growing enterprises. I also know the importance of advancing opportunities for women and girls who are essential to our future. Advancing women's economic empowerment and security strengthens a country's economy and productivity. Prioritizing girls' equal access to education and training and women's leadership in building resilient and innovative economies, including through access to job and entrepreneurship opportunities, supports global economic growth and prosperity. As an adoptive mother of 5 girls internationally, this is near and dear to my heart. We want them and our implementers to better reach their full potential. The United States appreciates IFAD's laser focused on its core mandate and seeking innovative opportunities with the private sector to continue to do what it does best. President Trump often says, American farmers are the backbone of the United States. While this is a great source of pride for our country, American farmers have also been feeding the world's hungry for generations, supporting communities worldwide with American commodities, agriculture ingenuity, and private sector innovation. We're proud of the legacy of being the most generous nation, and we continue it today. Within the last few weeks, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced a $452 million contribution through Food for Peace to deliver food produced by American farmers to people in need in 7 countries. The State Department also signed a groundbreaking $2 billion agreement with UN OCHA that fundamentally changes how we fund humanitarian work. This is huge. Both initiatives seek to bring the UN back to basis, eliminate wasteful bureaucracy, and bring more accountability to the taxpayer dollar, ultimately focusing UN entities on their core mandate and driving more resources to those in need. The United States appreciates IFAD's diligence with its mandate, focusing limited resources on what it does best, and seeking out innovative ways, as we're discussing here today, to work with the private sector and international financial institutions. Given the projections for global food demand, there are ample opportunities for international financial institutions, such as IFAD, to invest in agri-food financing. For example, the United States welcomes IFAD's collaboration with the World Bank's AgriConnect initiative, aimed at agri-food investment and job generation, including with the private sector. IFAD can leverage private capital, not just taxpayer money, to create jobs and boost agriculture productivity in rural communities. This builds self-reliance and can reduce aid dependency, and this is a core expectation for the U.S. foreign assistance. The United States expects UN entities to avoid mission creep that can cause duplicative programs and bureaucracy that costs taxpayers more money and directs fewer resources to those in need. I always try and say to all of our people that we're working with and implementers, please help me to help you by showing us the commitment to transparency and accountability that America expects. Our farmers deserve nothing but the best from all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Then I would like to give the floor to Nepal. I'm looking I'm searching for where they are sitting. You don't need to press anything. You can just talk in the mic.
Oh, yeah. Thank
Yes,
you.
we hear you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you.
First of all, many thanks to all the panelists for sharing the excellent, reflections, giving excellent reflections on their experiences. Particularly, very thankful to Muchikal, who has shared his experiences on how farmers have been, inspired and how farmers have been kept engaged with cultivation practices by providing all the different facilities like maintaining the quality and also trying to help in increasing the yield, particularly soya and amazed at the examples that you were citing. Now, I just want to compare it in my condition, my country's condition. In our case, the private sectors are a little reluctant in doing these sort of investments because they feel that somebody else, once the fruits are there, once something good is there as a result of their efforts, some other private sector people will come and will grab the entire things. So unhealthy competition among the private sectors themselves, they hamper the type of initiatives that you have been taking in Rwanda. So I just want to know what are your experiences in these lines, how you make sure that the investments that you have made in terms of increasing the yield of the farmers, ensuring the quality of the products, how do you make sure that the results are gained by you, you get all the outputs for your own purposes, the private sector, your own company or your own industry that you are talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The next speaker would be Japan, and just like to mention that you don't need to press any buttons, the mic will switch on automatically.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for the very inspiring dialogue. And I was particularly struck by the remarks by Mr. Satomi on his risk perception. So that the company like UCC, when the company gets into the field, and when you clearly define the roles and the responsibilities, then the risk becomes manageable. But before doing so, before building such trust and confidence, I think the initial transaction cost can be really high. And I think the IFAD has a very big potential role to reduce it. So my question is, what can IFAD do more to broaden this opportunity for the win-win benefit? Thank you very much.
Very good question. Thank you very much. I think these are all the interventions I understand. Maybe to start with the last one. What can IFAD do more? We can do so much more if we would have more funding. So I think that that's the first answer. And I think we are already in a good place, but not doing enough. The private sector engagement we have been doing already for quite some time, but more on a case-by-case basis and sporadically, and we want to do it much more intentional and more focused, and that's what we're looking to do. And it's very important to keep engaging also in communicating with the private sector to understand from them what it takes to work together. Are there any reactions from the panel here on the questions that we've heard? It's quite varied. Would you
Yes. If I may answer the question.
Sure.
Well, it was a statement made by Senegal, if I can respond to that.
Sure.
Okay. So I've been associated with small-scale farmers and agriculture and food producing in Africa for 35 years. My view is that every country, every region and every country has got separate, different, varied challenges of their own. And each has to find its own solution. There is no black book for Africa that will solve all problems. That's number one. Number two, we don't need to really look global. The size and scale of the opportunity to feed the African population itself is so large that we can just do justice to any business and make it hugely profitable by just taking care of the African market. Like I said earlier, there's a $100 billion import bill that is currently being paid by Africa in foreign currency and every year. If we resolve that, we create opportunities for employment, we create import substitution, we create upgradation of our people, and most importantly, we create food security. Frankly, what bigger opportunity than this can exist? So we really don't need to look globally. Let us just solve our own problem, and there's a very large business opportunity already available.
Thank you for that. There was another question, after all, from France. So I'd like to give the opportunity also to France over there. Please.
Thank you very much, and sorry to come a bit late. I struggled to find the Mac. I will speak in French. Je souhaite simplement, en deux mots, remercier le panel. Je trouve très inspirant, aussi très riche. Je pense que c'est un panel qui rappelle que l'engagement avec le secteur privé du FIDA est bien au cœur du mandat, Et c'est quelque chose qu'on voit pas qu'au travers des opérations non souveraines, c'est d'abord au cœur du mandat de ce que le FIDA réalise au travers de ces opérations souveraines, en améliorant l'accès au marché, en renforçant les capacités des acteurs locaux. Mais c'est vrai qu'au travers de ces opérations non souveraines, c'est une occasion pour tester des pilotes, pour tester des modèles, prendre un appétit au risque un peu supérieur à d'autres acteurs. Et je crois que c'est notamment ce qu'on a réussi, s'agissant de la France, à porter au travers de l'initiative Farm, qui a été mise en avant sur le cas du Rwanda et dans d'autres pays, au Sénégal, en Sierra Leone, au Zimbabwe. Donc moi, ma question, c'est, compte tenu de la taille du FIDA et donc de ses capacités également limitées, comment est-ce que le FIDA peut parvenir, une fois que les pilotes ont fait la preuve du concept, de la bancabilité, à passer à l'échelle, et quel rôle peut jouer le FIDA dans ce passage à l'échelle, et quels sont les bons partenaires pour le FIDA pour réussir à cela? Voilà, donc c'est une question. Je vous remercie.
I'm afraid it's again a question to me, but Mr. Rivas, yes?
I listen to the French, but I will speak in English, mais je pourrais le faire en français. But I think your question is a little bit similar to the question from Nepal, and I just wanted to comment a little bit on, we have a challenge that we make a lot of efforts, we have a lot of initiatives, but measuring the impact is not an easy task. And in some cases, like for example, carbon emissions, there is some methodologies that you can measure. But on social aspects, I think we still have to develop the models of return on investment that show the impact. So I think everyone is working on it, but it's more difficult to measure. On the other hand, I think companies like mine, many other companies as well, we are extremely transparent about what we do, what has worked, sometimes what hasn't worked, what targets we actually met and what targets we have not met and why. And I think that transparency, in addition to the problem of greenwashing, if you want, that today is a regulatory problem, is bringing a lot of honesty to the conversation. So we still have a long way to go, but I think we're making a lot of progress as a sector, the food and beverage industry, if you want. To the question of pilots and scaling, which I think is a very key question, yes, there are a lot of pilots. The question is, how do you put them all together and really scale the models at work? And I don't think there's an easy answer, but one of the problems of taking pilots to scale is about financing, is about the availability of long-term financing to really scale these models. We work on sustainability programs with a lot of public organizations, international organizations, but a lot of customers as well. And everyone is looking, everyone has obviously an annual budget and then a 5-year budget, but it's very difficult to have a 20-year one. So how can we have, the visibility of what funding is required and available for the longer term? Because that's the only way that you can really scale things. That would be my answer.
Well, thank you very much for that indeed, and I can only echo that. And on top of that, I would also like to mention, we're not out there only doing our own thing. We're designing, together with governments, programs that have the biggest impact. And in our designs, we can include the private sector engagement and be more specific about it. So far, we have designed it not per se with that in mind, and that we can do in value chains, we can do that in finance, rural finance. Value chains is the majority of what we do, so to include the private sector in there is definitely what we can do. And I think that it's also not about our size, it's about the ripple-on effect. If you have a successful project, success can be repeated. Succeed and repeat, that is what we see. And because we are global, we can use these successful experiences in one continent to be replicated in others if the local context allows, because we also are very tailor-made in our programs. That's how we look at it. I'm afraid we could go on a lot longer, I'm sure. This is a very interesting conversation, but I'm hearing that we need to wrap up. But before we finalize and close this session, I would like to invite the Canada governor to IFAD, and I'm looking for her right now, Her Excellency Leslie Norton, who will leave us with some further insight from Canada's experience. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and I just want to thank all of the panelists for such a very rich and energizing discussion. Colleagues, today's dialogue really reaffirms something important. Across governments, industry, and communities, there's a growing recognition that investing in agriculture value chains delivers real returns. Returns that show up not only in financial statements, but in positive changes in people's lives. Hearing from Sabrina today, and yesterday actually, reminds us of this. We heard again this afternoon that smallholder agriculture remains one of the world's most undercapitalized, yet highest return investment sectors. When smallholders are effectively integrated into markets, the results are clear. Stronger productivity, well-paying jobs, greater stability, and long-term value across rural economies. Our panelists gave concrete examples of innovation, describing how structured value chains and simple solutions and technologies can reduce transaction costs and open the door to more inclusive market access. We also saw how IFAD can design tailored platforms that strengthen local livelihoods, reinforce supply chains, and respond to members' own trade and development priorities. The conversation also underscored IFAD's unique strength as a convener, bringing governments, companies, entrepreneurs, civil society, and investors around the same table to spark partnerships and unlock progress. For Canada, this ability to connect people is central to IFAD's value. We have seen how IFAD can link public resources with private capital to drive meaningful investment to underserved areas. This is why Canada is a major contributor to the private sector financing program. For us, this program is a starting place, a platform that helps early-stage businesses prove what they can do so that commercial investors feel confident stepping in. At the same time, today's discussion reminded us that IFAD is part of a much wider story. Across the world, companies, foundations, and impact investors are building solutions that strengthen the broader agribusiness ecosystem, from digital tools to cold chain logistics to new financing models that help farmers sell into new markets. These efforts do not replace IFAD. Rather, we can be encouraged that many are moving towards the same goals. And true to the theme of this year's Governing Council, today's entrepreneurs reminded us why this matters. Rural youth are leading. They're innovating to build enterprises and to contribute to stronger, more sustainable communities. But they need access to markets, finance, and the right tools to succeed and deliver more results and real returns for themselves, their families, and their communities. And we look to IFAD's next chapter. One thing is clear. The interest is there, and the investors are ready. This is why Canada will champion private sector engagement as an integral part of IFAD 14. The right private sector partnerships can drive lasting, meaningful change for smallholder farmers. So thank you again to all of the panelists. I really appreciated that each of you ended on an optimistic note. And I also want to thank all of you for joining us here today. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So, like I said, it was indeed a very rich discussion, as we say, but I really enjoyed it. And a couple of takeaways. Clearly, the private sector engagement is crucial. The challenges we face, we cannot do as public sector on ourselves. And the impact is so much bigger when you're engaged. There are practical models around that you've showcased, and specific actions that we can take, and everybody has a role to play. So thank you very much for your contribution, for coming here and for sharing, and let's keep up the dialogue as a beginning or as a starters and continue, but also act. Thank you very much. Thank you.